Hello again. Welcome back to another president video, which I haven't done in a while. And I think this one might be my most controversial one yet. So today I want to talk about why I think JFK is overrated. Now I know me just saying that I already assume some of you already clicked off the video or hate me, but I want you to listen to me. And before I even say anything, I want to make it clear when I say JFK is overrated. I'm not saying he's like one of the worst presidents ever, he's not even close. But I have him further down the list than people normally would. And when I say that, I'm not meaning like he's not in the top 10, but I'm meaning like a tier list where most people would have him in like a S or A, but I have him as a C, and I'll explain why. I'll have three main reasons that I will talk about today. Another thing I would like to say, since I assume some people already think this. Since I'm saying JFK is overrated, I assume some people are thinking I'm a Republican, which I will tell you I am not. Nor am I a Democrat. Both of them can go fuck themselves, but overall today, I would just like to express an opinion that I think should be had more. Also, all the sources I will have either in the description or the bottom corners of the video, since I would like to be accurate. Anyway, JFK is overrated. Okay, so I think everyone knows that JFK was a serial cheater and a piece of shit to his wife. Which, by the way, why would you cheat on someone who looks like this? Come on, man, John, you already pulled a baddie, come on now. Anyway, yeah, JFK cheated on Jackie with pretty much everybody that came in his sight, having a total of 13 affairs. Famously having affairs with Marilyn Monroe, multiple other actresses, and a Nazi spy. Yeah, we'll get into that. And I'm going to be talking about most of them just to show how terrible of a husband JFK was. So first, let's talk about the most obvious one, Marilyn Monroe. So just in case you don't know the story, which I'm sure most of you already do, Marilyn Monroe and JFK were at an event that was 10 days before JFK's birthday, and she famously sang Happy Birthday to him.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
JFK came up and said,
Going to come and to Miss Monroe, who left a picture to come all the way east, and I can now retire from politics after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet and open.
Yeah, he was definitely fucking her. And then they had an affair later that day, I believe. And people believe that they had an affair way before this as well. In 1961, they met at a party in Santa Monica. In February 1962, they met at a dinner party in New York. Then in March at Bing Crosby's house. Then he allegedly passed her off to RFK, his brother. Then in May at that event. And in August, she was going to expose the affair she had with him and RFK. And then she died from an overdose later that month. Which is why some people believe JFK or RFK killed her. Just like Thomas Jefferson and James Callender, which you know if you have watched my video, which by the way you should go check out, and the Woodrow Wilson video. And I'm a believer of this conspiracy as well. There's not a huge amount of evidence to support it, but there is a few that I believe. And plus I think it's just pretty obvious from that clip and other pictures and evidence. Like you hear him start to get nervous when he mentions Monroe, and just look at that smile. But yeah, I believe, and a lot of other people do, that JFK or RFK killed Monroe. It's pretty much undeniable that they had an affair, but not as much with that. Although I find the probability likely. Next, Mary Pinchot Meyer. She had an affair with JFK while he was president. I don't know a ton of details on it. All I know is that they smoked marijuana together. It took place around 1962 to 1963, and a year after she was murdered. Huh, suspicious. Is probably what most you are thinking until you realize JFK died the year before, so there's no way he could have ordered a hit on her to avoid her from revealing the affair. I don't know if there is any conspiracy theories on this, on if someone related to Kennedy like RFK did it, or if it's just some random coincidence. Next, Judith Exner, also known as Judith Campbell. In her 1977 memoirs, she claimed having an affair with JFK when she was a White House consultant. She also claimed that David Powers had set up the encounters between them. Keep in mind, most of these people going forward said that they had an affair themselves with him. The past two were speculation and rumors, but now it's themselves telling us. Anyway, she also claimed she had an abortion with his child. He also had an affair with this woman named Marlene, which he was 20 years younger than her, and she also had an affair with his dad. Next, Pamela Turnure. Pamela was the press secretary of Jackie Kennedy. This man was so down bad that he fucked his wife's press secretary. Which, by the way, just in case you're wondering, yes, Jackie knew about the affairs, and she even apparently said when giving a tour of the White House to a French reporter, "This is the girl that's sleeping with my husband." And if you're wondering, why didn't she divorce him? Well, there's 3 reasons. 1, the first lady divorcing the president would make him look bad, especially if she told everyone the reason why. 2, she is married to the President of the United States, so she wouldn't divorce him. And 3, she was offered $1 million by his dad, Joseph Kennedy, to stay in the marriage after she considered divorcing him. Which, by the way, his dad is an even bigger piece of shit than him. I remember seeing the article a while ago that I can't find anymore that said apparently Jackie walked in on JFK and a woman having sex, and she was going to divorce him after, but this is what happened. I can't find it anymore, so I don't know if it's true, but considering it's JFK, likely yes. Anyway, Pamela had an affair with JFK when he was still a senator in 1958 and up until his death. In the book The Dark Side of Camelot, the person who wrote it claims that the landlady of Pamela caught and took a picture of JFK walking out of her apartment. And it also said that her and her husband rigged an audio recording system to listen to them having sex. Next, Inga Arvad. Now this is when JFK was single, but this is still a crazy story, and there's actually a video by Morbid Facts on this, so I'll play the video for you so you understand.
When future President JFK was dating Miss Denmark Inga Arvid in the 1940s, the FBI once bugged their room because they thought she was a Nazi spy. Turns out they didn't hear much conversation, but instead just a lot of spicy time. But that's not the crazy part. The reason why the FBI thought Inga was a Nazi spy was because she was Hitler's companion during the 1936 Olympics, and he once described her as the perfect example of Nordic beauty. This means that Hitler and JFK may very well have been Eskimo bros.
Yet crazy thing about how Hitler and JFK were related in that way. Next, Ellen Romech. She was allegedly an East German spy and prostitute JFK had an affair with in the 60s. She also has some sort of connection/affair with Dave Powers. Next, Gunlia von Post. She said she had an affair with Kennedy when he was a senator and said he tried to marry her and divorced Jackie before he had kids with her. Next, Priscilla Ware and Jill Cowan. They were both hired by Dave Powers to skinny dip with Kennedy. Noticing that this Dave Powers dude is also involved a ton, they also apparently had this happen. And finally, Mimi Alford. This is the one I was saving for last because it's the worst one of them all, and this proves to me that JFK is a horrible person. Mimi says on her 4th day in her White House internship. Hold on, 4th day? Not even a week, and he already had an affair with her. Anyway, she said that Dave Powers invited her to the White House swimming pool for a meeting where Kennedy was there, and afterwards he gave her a personal tour of the White House, which he led her to the bedroom, and you probably know what happened. And you might have noticed at the beginning of reason 1, I had worst husband ever/pedo, which I said, because Mimi was only 19 when this happened, and JFK was 45. And I know some of you are going to say, well, she wasn't under 18, but it's still weird to me because of the age gap. And again, some of you might say, well, he probably didn't know her age, which is true, but still. Not to mention she said was a virgin, and this was her first sexual experience. The affair went on for 18 more months, and she said that while her and Kennedy were skinny dipping, he whispered in her ear to go have oral sex with Dave Powers, who was there. Maybe we should focus on Dave Powers instead of Kennedy, because he's even more weird. Everything about JFK and Mimi is weird in my opinion, and most people I think's opinion as well. She was 19, he was 45, he was forcing her to do weird stuff, and it went on for 18 more months. But to her credit, she did say that she would do it again if she was 19. So overall, JFK is a horrible husband, a serial cheater, a sex pest, and probably a pedo. Not to mention the Secret Service was literally doing sex trafficking for Kennedy. Like, I'm not joking, they were literally doing trafficking of prostitutes for Kennedy, and apparently he had sex with a woman in the limousine multiple times. Also, I saw this post on Reddit that shows this and says JFK was not a great lover. All those affairs, and you did this. So yeah, Kennedy serial cheater, and the Secret Service was the 1960s version of Epstein Island. He also apparently had relations with 3 to 5 women a week and said if I don't have sex for 3 days, I get a headache. Kennedy's range of affairs from actresses to major celebrities to spies to secretaries to young interns. Wait, the president having an affair with a young intern. That sounds familiar. What's interesting is that JFK was one of Clinton's favorite presidents, no wonder where he got his morals from. And Kennedy's favorite president was likely Thomas Jefferson. Notice how a lot of the presidents that were bad people were just in general, a lot of the presidents had the same morals pretty much as their favorite president. Clinton got his affairs/EDP from Kennedy, and Kennedy got his affairs/EDP from Jefferson. Andrew Jackson got his asshole racist energy from Jefferson. Wilson got his racism/asshole energy from Jefferson. Nixon got his racism/asshole energy from Wilson. And Trump got his insert whatever you think about him from Jackson. So yeah, Dave Powers is weird and Kennedy is a cheater. Now I said that there were 13 known/confirmed affairs, but considering he had that many and other information on him, there's definitely more that we don't know about whether the person is dead or we just don't know. And at least one of those affairs had to be with somebody under 18, and Mimi Alford affair was way too creepy, even after he probably knew her age, because they continued for 18 months, remember. Another reason I think JFK is overrated is because we tend to glorify or idolize him, because he died in the way he did as well as he was young when he died. We tend to do that with a lot of public figures who die young, or just in general people who die in tragic ways like John Lennon, Gandhi, MLK, etc., but we do it especially with JFK, which, of course, is probably because he was a president, but as well as the way it happened. Of course, as we all know, JFK was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald or whoever you think it was. Personally, I'm a believer of the conspiracy of CIA and LBJ killing him. By the way, just so the CIA knows that's a joke. Anyway, of course, with the president's head being blown off on video and the fact that he died at age 46, people of course feel sad and look back. And I think generally people over-exaggerate his importance and legacy and accomplishments because of what happened. But I'm not acting like he didn't do some great things, of course he did. But maybe not as important or as many as people say. By the way, let's not forget that no matter if you think who killed JFK was Lee Harvey Oswald, LBJ, the CIA, the FBI, Cuba, the Soviet Union, the three tramps, a guy in the sewer, the grassy knoll, the mafia, George H.W. Bush, or someone else, which by the way I might make a video on at some point, let me know if you want that. We can all admit that JFK was a top 10 president and probably saved the world during the Cuban Missile Crisis, which if someone else less competent had been in charge, we'd be all dead right now. I forgot to mention the military-industrial complex probably also killed him because he may have been wanting to pull out of Vietnam, but they killed him to make sure that that didn't happen. So yeah, I think we idolize him more than he deserves because he got assassinated young. This one a lot of people don't know, but in the 1960 election which Kennedy ran, it's probably likely that he didn't win at least one state, and that it was rigged. Why?
'Cause fuck 'em, that's why.
Nah, I'm just kidding. Anyway, in the 1960 election, Kennedy ran against Richard Nixon, the current vice president and future president, who went on to become one of the worst. Yes, fuck you, Nixon. Anyway, it was a very close election, but Kennedy ended up winning 303 electoral votes, and Nixon getting 219. Now, that might not sound close in the electoral vote, and it wasn't, but the popular it was very close, and if you look at individual states, you see how close it was. But because of Kennedy winning states like Illinois and Texas, he won the electoral vote in the election. However, it's likely that he didn't win Illinois, and it was rigged. You see, it's likely that Kennedy's dad, Joseph Kennedy, bought votes, and there were actually a lot of dead people who voted in Illinois. And he definitely did not win Illinois, and it was rigged, but he probably won Texas from what I've seen. Nixon supporters wanted him to challenge the results, but Nixon did not want to not have a, quote, constitutional crisis. Now, I don't blame Kennedy necessarily for this, but I blame the people around him, and especially his dad. You shouldn't have allowed this to happen unless, of course, he wanted it to. But maybe he didn't win other states as well and was an illegitimate president. So yeah, overall, I think JFK is overrated, mostly because of his morals, but also people just exaggerate how good he was. Now, of course, he did great things like the space race civil rights which he worked for, and then LBJ eventually signed the Civil Rights Act, Cuban Missile Crisis. Although Bay of Pigs invasion let that happen in the first place and was terrible. Another reason I forgot to mention is because, well, he was kinda hot, I mean. Look at that. Anyway, I just think he was a terrible husband and human being, so that brings him down a lot. And remember, when I say overrated, I don't mean like not in the top 10. He's actually number 5 best president for me. It's just that in a tier list, he is a C instead of S or A or B, and at the top of C2. Not to mention, he also escalated Vietnam before LBJ screwed everything up there, so that brings him down as well as the way he handled Bay of Pigs. Kennedy is in top 5, maybe even top 3 most overrated presidents, as most accomplishments are exaggerated. Thank you for watching the video, and before I go, I know I normally say "F you whoever I'm talking about, and I hope they're burning in hell," but out of all presidents, I don't really think I wish that on Kennedy. But yeah, Kennedy is overrated. His accomplishments are over-exaggerated, and he's a horrible husband and person. But you know who's more overrated?